Hello there. Hi. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of the My English Matters podcast. I'm Amna, one of the creators of My English Matters, where we help Malaysians and second language learners improve their English through our online courses, membership programs, and live workshops. Today, I'm joined by Madam Azimah, and we are going to be talking about 5 things to ask yourself before your presentation. So, good morning, Madam Azima. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you?
Great. I'm good too. Alhamdulillah. So let's get started. About the 5 things to ask yourself before your presentation. Do you want to share the first thing?
Right. So let me put this into context. I want to talk about the 5 questions that you need to ask in terms of relating it to your audience. So that's the premise that we want to talk about audience only related to audience. So the first thing that you want to ask yourself is who's going to be there when you are presenting or speaking. And the reason is your job is to find things that are in common with them. So it doesn't matter if it's your boss, it's your colleagues, whoever, but find something that's in common so that you can start from there. So it could be work culture, it could be a common experience that you have together, or what just happened that morning. You want to address that first so that everybody's on the same page and in the good mood as you are, right? So choose your stories and examples wisely. So that's number one. Who's going to be there? Okay. Number two, ask yourself, why are they there in the first place? So this will help you to prepare for the attitude that they're going to bring to your presentation. Why are they there? For example, if they're there because the boss ordered them to be there, so they're basically forced to be there, their attitude is going to be different from somebody who's paid to be there or they volunteered to be there. Not just that, not just their attitude, but their level of curiosity, right? So a person who is paid to listen to you, they're gonna, obviously they put in their money, so they're more curious, right? They are willing to spend a lot of money to listen to you, so you don't really have to win them so much over because they're already there. They have invested their time to listen to you. So
Mhm.
think about that. Compared to,
But
I'm
what
not like,
if,
yeah.
sorry, but what if you have an audience that are a mix of people? Who should we focus on?
Right, this is a great question. What you can do is you know ahead of time, what's the majority, what's the majority of them are there because they are being forced to be there, or majority of them are there because they are curious. They're there to solve a problem. They're there to learn something. So you want
Mm,
to know the majority. Try to do
yeah.
that 1st. Mhm.
I think that if you are presenting and you have a mix of people in it, I think you also need to look at who are you actually speaking to. So, for example, I have to teach a class, and I know that you will be there, and I know the majority of the people there are going to be the students. So I'm speaking to the students more than I am speaking to you, right? I think that's how you should also approach it. You got to know who are you actually speaking to, even though there's going to be a mix of people in the audience. You have to know who are you speaking to and what message do you want to convey to them. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
just a little bit.
that's true as well. And if you are winning over somebody's whatever approval, then that is the one that you need to focus on rather than the general mass who are there. So that's
Mm,
where you have to think about your purpose as well. Okay, so those are
okay.
my first 2 questions. Okay. Oh, I have a story as well, right? Remember, we used to do workshops. I used to do workshops when I before my English matters, and the difference between doing it uh, um, for the outside, non what do you call it? Those who are in the corporate companies, for example, the audience there are not people who are really want to be there sometimes because they are actually ordered by the human resource, HR people. They're
Mm.
there. So they're not really there to learn English and
Mm.
communication.
They're
They have
forced
to
to
be
be.
there. They're forced to be there. They want to get a certificate, whatever it is. So it's different from people who are actually willing participants who use their own money to learn English and communication. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. That's what I see the differences between adults who are forced versus who are willing.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Okay. So my third question is still related to your audience, of course. How much do they already know about your subject or topic? How much do they already know about your subject or topic? Okay. So this comes um, in terms of, for example, your corporate language, right? If they're there because you work in the same place, then they know the lingo there. They know how to use them. You don't have to define anything, the acronyms, etc. You don't have to define anything. And then so I want to go to into now about the education level as well. This is for we can divide it as well in this way. So for the less educated audiences, like meaning they don't really know about your subject, perhaps, then you want to make sure that your material, your topic is clear and relevant and simple. But just because it's simple, don't treat them as if they are simple people, of course. So that's important as well. So be clear, be relevant. If you have highly trained technical people there listening to you, so I'm talking to engineers and people like that, they don't mind that you're technical and they don't mind that you get into details, but then get to the point and then get out of there. Okay. You can do a demonstration, great, but just get to the point. Okay. For people who are in the academic world, the world that I was in for many years, so you might have supervisors there, you might have peers there, academics, right? They are very critical people. They're probably going to question your stuff a lot as they listen. They're going to be a bit skeptical. So you want to have research and data and evidence and all of these things, clearly upfront, and you know about them. You know them very, very well. So choose your data wisely and choose your examples wisely. And you need to back up what you say with research. And also, if you're going to quote somebody, right, your research, it has to be the latest, hopefully, the latest findings, not outdated findings, not controversial findings that were not backed up by anything. So it's just, false claims. So be careful with that. So this is for the academics. For the educated masses, so the educated people who, are well read, when you want to win them over, you be practical, yes, be relevant, and then just spend time on why they should listen to you and what do they get out of listening to you, and also tell them ways to implement your ideas because they want to get going, right? They're probably action oriented after they listen to you. So those are the things that you want to think about in terms of their education level. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So moving on to my fourth question. What do I have to offer them? What do I have to offer them? So think about this. Are you offering help? Are you there to solve a problem? So tell them that you're the expert or whatever it is. You are there to solve their problem together. Maybe you want to give them new skills, right? Great. Or whatever it is. Because the thing is, um, the question that you need to answer is, what do I get from this presentation? This is the thing that the audience will be asking. When they're sitting there, they're not sitting there, I'm so happy to sit here and listen to you. All they're thinking about is, what do I get from listening to you? And so this is where you have to have that mentality that you are offering them something. They get something new from listening to you. They're not wasting their time. Okay. And lastly, my fifth question for you: how can I make my presentation memorable? So, how can I make it memorable? Because this is the thing, not all audience members will remember the same thing, right? So, you remember, you have audience members who prefer the demonstration. They remember better like that, right? They prefer watching something or doing something. Some learn better through uh, just by listening, right? They're auditory uh, listeners, learners, excuse me. And then we have those who prefer to watch something visual. So maybe you want to put some videos, etc., short videos, etc. Some just want to have a laugh, right? They will remember stories and they'll remember jokes. But if your jokes and stories contribute to that being memorable, incorporate that in. So try to incorporate as many different elements as you can to cater to your audience's needs and preferences. So those are my five things.
Yeah. I also want to add in about, I remember that we did a workshop, I think a few years ago, and then we asked our students in that workshop to present. And one of the participants, she was talking about climate change. That was the topic that she chose for her presentation. So she was talking about climate change, and then, the effects of climate change, what's causing climate change and all that. And the one thing that I noticed was that it didn't relate back to the audience. And so we suggested to her to relate back to the audience. So, what can the audience do about it? Okay, climate change. Okay, it's scary. It's something that we all want to avoid. So, what are the practical steps that we can take to contribute to, preventing climate change, or making or slowing it down? So
Mm,
when it
yeah.
comes to a presentation or a discussion, or you're just sharing something, if you're sharing a lot of information, you always have to think back to your audience, relate back to them. What can the audience do? Or what can the audience take away from this that they can take home and then they can remember about it, so that it's not so big picture, it's more practical, tangible stuff that they can take home with them. So I think that's important when it comes to your presentation. Always relate it back to the audience. So
Mm,
that's just one thing that I noticed about knowing your audience for this whole topic.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's the same thing as when I was preparing for this, my points here. I have to think about the My English Matters audience who are watching. We have working adults, we also have homemakers, we have academics watching as well. So I had to come up with as many general examples as I can to cater to your needs. So that's why I had to break down. Remember my earlier points, I had to break down into different types of audience. I was thinking about My English Matters audience as well. And so you, when you're in your field, it's very, very important that you design your content that's relevant to them at that moment. And then if you're doing the same presentation again, the same presentation, but to a different audience, you have to edit out a few things and add some more things and spend more time here. So it's always going to be a different presentation, even though you are repeating basically the same points and the same key messages. So the
yeah.
thing, it's never going to be
Yeah, I was
exactly.
thinking, because when I was working in the corporate world, we had to do a lot of presentations. So sometimes it was the same presentation. Maybe the presentation was for senior management, and then I had to present the same thing but to the customer service team. But the way that I relayed the message was different, because I knew that senior management, they would be more interested in revenue numbers and all that, whereas customer service, they would be more interested in, say, reducing the number of inbound calls, or managing irate customers and all that. So we have to, when we are presenting something, even though it's the same thing, we have to be focusing on different parts of the presentation, because we know that everybody is holding different parts in the company, and they have their own stake in the
Mhm.
company. So they will have different KPIs and all that. So
Yeah.
it's also important to know your
Yeah.
audience.
So you have to put in some extra effort in that sense. Sometimes it means editing a bit of your slides, right, or adding something
Yeah.
new, or sometimes, but not all the time. If you're very skilled, you still want to use the same slides. You are the one who's like the pace itself. You're controlling the pace. Which one is the one that you emphasize and slow down and go fast
Mm,
on top of
yeah, and if you
whatever
have
slides.
time, you rehearse it. So you rehearse yourself. You rehearse the presentation before a presentation for a senior management, for example. And but it's the same presentation, but now you're rehearsing for another group of people, and it is going to be different. Maybe you realize, oh, okay, this slide is not that important. They don't need to know this, but this other group, for them, it's important to know. So yeah, it's still, maybe it could be the same
Yeah,
slides, but you take in or you take out stuff that you think that the audience won't need. So I think that's really important for you to know your audience. I think knowing your audience is the most important thing, because you have to know what's the objective of your presentation, and what do you want the audience to do with that, with the message that you have for them.
that's true. That's true. So this way you avoid being what we call short sendiri, right? Where you're just talking, showing off your all your knowledge, all your preparation, but it's not really important to the audience at all, and therefore
Mm-hmm.
your presentation has failed.
Yeah, yeah. It's your role as a presenter to know your stuff, but at the same time, know the things that the audience need to know. So it's your role to synthesize the information that you have. All right.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So thank you, Madam Azima. Do you want to summarize your 5 things to ask yourself before your presentation?
Okay. So first, ask yourself who's going to be there. Number two, why are they there? Number three, how much do they already know about my subject? Number four, what do I have to offer them? And number five, this is advanced. How can I make it memorable? If you can reach number five, how can I make it memorable? Then you're an advanced presenter.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Azima. It was fun talking to you today. We hope to see you in our next episode of the My English Matters podcast. If you've still not subscribed to our email list, go to myenglishmatters.com, subscribe with your name and your email address, and you'll get 7 tips to speak with confidence, and also weekly emails from us every Thursday with tips and lessons and any updates about our courses and our programs. All right, so that's all from us for today. Thank you for joining us. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Bye, everybody.